Hi, I'm going to start off this critique, and I thought I'd begin by saying that I really appreciate how much everybody's been contributing to the discussion on this. I've seen a lot of really good suggestions from classmates and help, and that's part of what makes this course great, so I hope you all keep that up. Let's start with Deborah. Okay, so this is Deborah Evans, and yeah, it's looking good. It's got some character and style to it. Not sure what that one's supposed to be, but yeah, I think it's got some character to it. I like the sort of claw hands. I think it's good that you've posed it. It's good that you've added elbow joints. You could do a similar thing and put a shoulder joint there as well. It's an interesting hat. It makes me think of sort of a folded up kind of sailor hat looking thing. Um, Yeah, so I mean, you've clearly got the hang of getting the different objects positioned. I think that I would tend to not have a. I would want to keep the wheels rounded. It looks like you've adjusted the scale Z, so I would probably keep that um, even because a wheel wouldn't roll very well in the oval shape, or it could be like a funny rolling wheel that went up and down, but in general, I would probably steer away from that. But yeah, you've got the basics, you've got it moving around. There's an awful lot of layers here, and I think you've overdone it with the layers. So typically, um, you'd have fewer layers. So, you know, they're just there to help you stay organized. So, like for example, having a layer for every single button is certainly overkill. It's just not necessary. What I might have, for example, is a layer for all of the buttons in one layer, or better yet, a layer that includes all of these components included in there. So yeah, I mean, it's good that you're working to stay organized, but this is probably overkill. And rather than getting in this level of detail with the layers, what would be better is, for example, you've named the layers for each of the buttons, but the buttons themselves you didn't name. So rather than having a layer for that button and naming the layer, I would, if anything, name the actual button either up there or here in the outliner. So it's good that you've grouped everything, um, but the groups are, just going to turn that off, shape notes. Yeah, so none of the objects are named and none of the groups are named, but you have more layers than necessary. So usually just a few layers. Like you might just have one layer that's just character and another layer that's like background or ground or tree. Like just large groups of things rather than every individual thing. But again, yeah, it's good progress. It's improvement over the last version, and yeah, you're clearly getting the hang of moving stuff around. Next up, we have Suan with a magic staff. Okay, here's the magic staff. Um, Looks like there's some additional detail up here and with these guys. Um, you've gone beyond the primitives, but that's okay. I don't mind that. And yeah, it's interesting. And I think this is a nice use of the helix primitive, and that worked out really well. Um, that's looking good. Yeah, so I would say this turned out nicely. Can see you've got it grouped here, which is good, and you have each of your groups named, which is good as well to keep things organized. And you've named some of the objects, or most of the objects, which is good. And you have everything in one layer, which, or do you? It doesn't seem to actually be. So you have the layer in here, but the objects don't seem to be assigned to it. Let's say Uh, I should have to select objects. Oh, right. I can't select objects in layer because there are no objects in the layer. So if I select these guys, or better yet, just take this whole group, right mouse click, add selected objects, and you'll want to have those in the layer. So that will be the only other thing. But yeah, I think it's good. I think you've gone beyond just primitives, and this is interesting. Um, and yeah, it worked out nicely. Next up is Nadia, and you can see we started out with this version of the character, and then she upgraded to that, and then further with a hat. Let's take a look. So yeah, I like that the character's posed, and there's a lot going on here with the bow tie. Um, Looks like that started out as a cone, as did this one. Not sure exactly what's going on with the head of the cone. Did you just delete the end off there, or looks like something a little odd going on with the shape of the cone? But anyways, it's kind of working for this project. Um, Normally you'd have a more clear edges on that face there, but yeah, I like that you've had pupils, and the hat is a nice touch. And I like that it's live juggling balls, and you've got claws. So yeah, I mean it's sort of a good kind of cute character made from primitives with a fair amount of design. So yeah, it looks good. And I think again this is a case where I would say some overkill with the layers. You don't need generally so many layers. Like again, there's no. It doesn't make sense to have a layer for an individual object like the left pupil. That um, it's overkill. But it would be better again to just. Oh, you did name it as well, which is good. So yeah, and so you've been meticulous about naming these, which is good, but you don't need to go so far and have a layer for everything. You break it down to just a few layers is all that's really necessary. Maybe one for the balls that the character is juggling, and you could have a layer called like accessories that included the bow tie and hat, and then maybe just all the rest of the character is one layer. That kind of thing is more typical. But yeah, it's good that you're getting used to using the layers. So yeah, nice work. Next up, we have Crystal. Um, so let's take a look. So yeah, it's got like again kind of a cute design using this simple thing. Um, Something went a little wacky with these, but I guess that's okay. Let's see what it looks like in smooth. What you might want to do is see how you see those kind of faceted edges around here. If you go under the polygons menu and go to normals and soften edge, then it'll. Actually, that didn't really do much, did it? I am surprised. I would have thought that would make the edges more soft looking. So I'm wondering why they're not, but I'm not sure. Okay. Normally that would soften the look of the edges, so I can see it right there. Anyways, and then the tail, yeah, you're going to want to I'm going to go back to 1 for rough mode, and you're going to want to avoid these sort of overlapping vertices situation here where they're kind of crisscrossing each other. So this has gotten, a little bit extreme the way you've done this shape, and what in the future what we'll see is you'll want to add some more detail. So it's gotten a little tangled up here, essentially. Um, and that's something to avoid in the future. But again, just for this assignment of getting the hang of things, that's fine. And improvements, you could add maybe like a nose and a mouth, maybe some whiskers and claws, things like that to kind of flesh it out a little bit more. So yeah, it's very few shapes, pretty basic, but it's got a cute look, and I think it meets the goals of the assignment. I see that you use some NURBS stuff as well. Again, that's okay. Is this a NURBS object as well? Oh, it is. Okay, that's interesting. And that's fine. It doesn't really matter for this assignment. So yeah, if you want to take it further, you could also be more organized by naming these guys. I see that you did make a layer, so that's good, and you did do a group. Nice. So Sebastian's done a robot. Um, take a look at that. So here's Sebastian's robot, another kind of cute character. Kind of. Sometimes I like to do wireframe unshaded, and it's easier to see some shapes on here. I like that you've added, shoulders and elbows and stuff like that. And yeah, it's now it from the original version has some more body shape. I would tend to make this head a little thicker, but it's all a question of design. It's sort of open. I like the eyes and eyeballs here. How that worked out. Turn that off. And the concentric ovals for the ears. I might have gone a little thinner on the antenna. And I see you're getting into parenting, which is okay, but I would tend to encourage you to put things into groups more than parent them unless you have a very specific um, kind of intention for why you're parenting them. And the thing is you can get into some trouble. And actually, this should be a pretty good example. Let's see what happens, for example, if I scaled up the ball now. Actually, that's not doing anything. Not a great example. All right, well, sometimes when this has a scale on it, like the parent has a scale on it, the child node can kind of skew a little weird. So in this case, it's really not a problem. But um, yeah, maybe, more detail on the feed. You could also have fun with it and put it in a pose. And then the idea I was saying, like if you wanted a reason to parent it, for example, if I parented this to the arm and then hit P for parent, and I guess these guys and the arm to the shoulder. You always select the children first and then the parent last, and then hit P for parent. And now I can take this and use that, and then it'll I compose the arm a little bit. You because you made this out of one cylinder, you can't bend it there. So I would recommend actually having two separate cylinders, one for the bicep area, one for the forearm area, so you could put it in a little pose, and then same for the legs, just to add a little bit more if it was posed. But yeah, good work. You got the basics down. It's got kind of a nice design. I would again say this is maybe more than necessary for layers, but it's actually a better example than some that we've seen because, for example, the left leg includes all the various objects on the left leg. So that's, that is getting kind of organized, and that could be helpful. Okay, Danielle's done a Pokeball. Okay, here's the Pokeball. And it certainly looks like a Pokeball. You've got all that going on. Even added the color. So yeah, I can see you've gotten into extruding now, and that's okay. I mean, again, the idea is to do it with just primitives, but I don't really mind too much if people want to go ahead. And I saw that you did this with a tutorial, and that's okay too. But yeah, I mean, for a Pokeball, it's exactly, I think, what you'd want. Looks good. I think you could be a little more organized. You could create put in a layer, name some of your objects, put them in a group. Select these guys, Control G, call it Pokeball. If you want to get real organized, you could get in there and name your various components that build it up. Could make a layer, have a selected, boom, and then it's in the layer. So just a couple little things to tidy up. And then, yeah, if you just wanted to take it further, do something a little more, your own or creative, I had mentioned in a post there that you could start modeling Pikachu or something like that, just to kind of give it a little bit, do a little bit more, take it to the next step. So Cameron has modeled Dalek from Doctor Who. Pretty cool choice. Let's take a look. So yeah, this is looking really good. I'm not any kind of Doctor Who expert, but yeah, I think it looks good. There's a lot of thought and detail put into this. Um, One thing I think you asked was kind of getting a smoother connection between these two. And if I right mouse click, I go to edge, then I double click on that edge and it selects that edge. And then I'm going to go to normals, soften edge, and you can see that if we turn off the wireframe unshaded here, you can see you get that sort of smoother looking connection there. And maybe I'll just undo a couple steps. Whoops. Um, you can kind of see how it's hard there, and then I'll redo those. Shift Z. Oh, it doesn't want to let me redo. Okay. Normal, soften edge. Okay. And you could go around looking for other edges that you want smoother, like probably this one too. And just if it doesn't go all the way around, just keep shift double clicking until you get, some of them will select multiple. It has to do with the fact that when it's all quads, that is to say it's all four-sided faces, it'll select your edge loops much more easily, but you can see the kind of consistent four-sided facing is interrupted by these triangles here, and that's why it's not selecting all the way around, all in one go. But now it is all selected, so again, normals, soften edge, and what just happened there? There we go. Yeah, and that smooths that out. So you could go around. You could also look to, harden some edges. So, for example, oh, I don't know, maybe this one along the bottom here. Um, if you wanted that to kind of look like a more of a hard edge on the ground. I'm not sure exactly how it should look. Yeah, and this like front seam here. So yeah, it's kind of smoothing that out. So you could go around and soften or harden those edges as is appropriate for the shape of the character. But yeah, it's kind of it sort of reminds me of like an iron and a toilet plunger and stuff. I should pull up an image of one. So here's a quick example. Well, actually, if you get in there, there's a lot going on. I don't know which one is the sort of official Doctor Who Dalek, but yeah, it looks like there's additional detail you could have on these things and adding things like bolts. Oh, I can see that those are sort of faceted edges there and here. Oh, I didn't realize that. Yeah, and that there's more going on. But for this assignment, you've already gone above and beyond, and that's really great. Um, so yeah. Oh yeah, and you have these. Oh, it looks like. So it looks like in some cases, did these? Is that a group? Oh, okay, you did the copying and pasting thing, and what I was going to mention is to avoid that. So rather than copy paste, I would recommend using duplicating. Um, and they're kind of parented in a weird order, so I probably would have grouped them rather than parented them. But like for example, I'm just going to unparent this guy and delete these. And so um, you can do, select one and do edit duplicate, but you can also do duplicate special. And like if I figure out the distance I want, I can do 3 copies all at once, and then this is the amount it'll move each copy. So I'm just going to guess here and say this is the Y direction. So Y is up and down. So if I did -2, it should move it down 2 units each time. Let's see what that looks like. Nope, way too much. Whoa, that's interesting. So somehow, oh, interesting. Not sure why. You didn't necessarily need to bother with cutting off the insides if we don't see them. But and also interestingly, you've kept this other one. So, anyways, it's not a big deal, but probably yeah, few of them still have this sort of inside surface. So you could just select the faces and get rid of that. It's just you don't need it. Can go. But anyway, yeah, you don't necessarily need to use the duplicate special. But if you did know, also it's already rotated at a weird angle, so it's going to be hard to. I would probably freeze the transformation on that first, which zeroes out those numbers. Modify, freeze transforms, and then if I move it down 2 each time, that's way too much. One. Anyways, doesn't really matter because you'd probably you'd have to get it just right. So you're probably just as well hand positioning those, to be honest with you. But I just wanted to mention that it's something that's maybe would have been easier to calculate. Um, yeah, and again, very good. You went above and beyond for the assignment, so nice work. And I always appreciate something that's been modeled from reference. Byron's done a palm tree. Let's take a look. So this is looking really good. Really nice design to it. It's nice that you got this curved shape out of, a series of segments, and the palm tree, lends itself well to that kind of look to it because, I don't know, just the nature of a palm tree, and I like that you've done these leaves out of cubes. So yeah, I mean, it's very kind of thoughtfully and carefully done. Um, and obviously you've worked and tweaked on the sort of island shape a little bit more. But that's all right. That's good. And you got a couple coconuts here. So yeah, I think this is great. It's very much in the spirit of the assignment, and you've done a very nicely designed object. So that looks really good. Next up, we've got Todd. And yeah, it's a snowman, but it's definitely one that has a lot of character to it. I'm liking the sort of the kinks in the hat and the carrot nose. Um, there's even, yeah, kind of a sort of a sinister looking angle to the eyes a little bit. It gives it a little more character. And I like these little additional kind of extrudes coming off of the arms to give it more of a branch-like look to it. And kind of well placed spheres to give it some more of a pose. So yeah, I feel like you did the snowman, but you definitely took it to the next level. So that's good. I mean, one thing you can do is like do something for pupils in the eye, or maybe give us a better idea of what this mouth might be made out of. Because right now it's a little hard to tell. Maybe if it's a stick, make it a little more stick-like in this sort of uneven way you did this stuff. But yeah, very nice snowman. Or very sinister snowman, better yet. So Matthew Chang's done this house. Um, and yeah, that's looking good. I think it's kind of a good extension for this assignment. I think you've got a lot of organizing to do in here. You've got what I actually might do actually to speed this up is if you take all of those objects and then group them. I did Control G. So there's this group here. Now I don't need anything else. You've even got an extra perspective camera, which you don't really need, and I'll control click on that one to get rid of that too. And boom, I've just cleaned up the whole scene in just 2 easy steps. So, and you could name some of these individual objects. Looks like you did copying and pasting, which, as I mentioned before, I don't generally do in this program. I usually do duplicate, edit, duplicate. Um, and Yeah, I mean, in some ways, it looks like you paid attention to scale in other areas. If this were a real house, those would be very thick um, window frames. So it's good to kind of take a look at reference and really think about that when you're building something like a house. And you could look for other little details to add, gutters and drain pipes, little steps to the front entrance, and things like little vents for the basement. Just look at reference and see what you find. You did have one question though, which was making a hole in the chimney, and there'd be a number of ways that you could do that. What I was suggesting was if I'm just right mouse clicking, select the face, and then F for frame selected, and then I could just use, under my polygon tab, I can use extrude, and if I want to scale it into the center, but I don't see that center one, so I'm going to click on this outside one, and then it does give me the center one, and then I've got those edges there, and then I can hit extrude again and just move that guy down, get sort of a sense of a chimney opening. If you wanted it, truly open where it goes, all the way down. So you see we've got a bit of a problem here because we have this other surface there. So I'm going to just undo back. Let's scale this a little smaller. And I guess, I might cheat a little bit, but what I would do is I might just push that down, as far as I need it to go, and then select this top surface of this other cube here. Oh, I guess that's the bottom of this one. So let me back up. One nice trick is to, you can isolate an object by going show, isolate, select, view selected, and just look at that one object. And if I select both the top and the bottom at the same time and do the extrude stuff, it'll do it to both of these. And so then I could, for example, just get rid of this one. This is maybe a slightly sloppy way to model it, but good enough. And then extrude that one again and push that down. And then I can just turn off isolate select. And now this is the top of, should be the top of this one. Let's isolate that one. And I'll delete that top. And then got my, oh, you're seeing the roof in there now, but you could either fix that, or probably most camera angles you wouldn't see that. You'd have to get pretty deep in there. So that would be one approach. It's not perfectly clean because I didn't kind of connect stuff up, but it's sufficient for something like this. Gives you an idea of approach of how you might do it. So yeah, you might get a little more organized. It looks like you do have a layer here. That's good, but you could name some of your stuff and you had all those extra groups. But yeah, it looks like you put some good time and effort to this, so good job. So Steven's done this tree, and he's even made a video here. Let's take a look at that. One thing, I mean, that's, fantastic. That's amazing. One thing is, I noticed your video is very large, so make sure you compress these. You can use H.264 compression. Let me know if you need help doing that, but really impressive. And I think there's another video here. Oh, of the owl. Yeah. Really nice. So let's take a look at your file. Okay, so here's the file, and it's kind of heavy. I'm guessing it's just the number of polygons, although it doesn't seem that crazy big to me. I'm not sure what's yeah, so each of these are just a primitive with some transparency. Yeah, so this is really impressive. I think what it shows is that kind of, even though you're just using primitives, there's just really a lot of attention to form and shape of the overall object, and obviously a lot of thought put into that. You've added this nice kind of rope swing here with a tire, which is a great touch, and of course the owl, which we saw the little video of. So this is, I mean, really, this is just great. It's great that you've picked such a complex object. It's kind of a clever way of doing it. Actually it's just a nice piece. Yeah, it looks like something, I don't know, out of a video game or something that could even kind of come to life. Yeah, it's just great. I mean, just the way it is, it's really, yeah, again, another sort of above and beyond example. And yeah, as looks like you're really nicely organized here and got a lot of parenting stuff going on as well as groups, and you've got your various layers here to keep things organized very well. Look at that. It's pretty neat. My computer's a little slow on the draw here. But yeah, excellent work. I don't really have anything much to say about it. I guess the only thing I might have done differently is maybe also make this out of the cylinder pieces, but I like the kind of deep texture, so that there would have been a gain and a loss in doing it, one way versus the other. So yeah, let's make it a pretty good choice. Yeah, really, it's just a great piece, really good. One thing I might have said is that these might have worked just as well if they were just like a flat plane, if they didn't have any width, and that would save you lots of polygons. But again, it's great. And yeah, and it's interesting when you look at it from sort of a distance like that. It's kind of it's like you wouldn't even know it's made out of little pieces. It looks like just a well-modeled tree. This is Sean did a pencil. Um, and it's nice. I mean, it's pencil is something you think is sort of deceptively simple, but it looks like Sean has got a lot of the detail in here, um, which is good. I think that one little trick is the eraser is going to be maybe a little um, thinner than the thing holding it in. Oh, what's that? I'm not sure that piece is, but yeah, maybe just a touch thinner. This is beyond, what I would expect you to do for this assignment, but just while we're looking at it, if you wanted to bevel this edge, you could right mouse click and go to edge, and then double click to select that edge loop. And then from the edit mesh menu, you can go to bevel. And at first pass, that doesn't look so great. So I'm going to go over here in the inputs where it says poly bevel 1. I have these various controls. And I can type in numbers here, or I can click on the word, for example, roundness, and I can middle mouse drag. Actually, not roundness. Let's try fraction. Yeah, and adjust that. And if I want finer control over that, I can hold down the control key and get a little bit more control over that, and then add some segments there and get sort of a nicer looking shape to that eraser. Anyways, just an extra little tidbit there. But yeah, I mean, I like that, you've thoughtfully done these various pieces, and it's a nice use of the assignment. And it's interesting you even get that kind of look here because this one is sort of faceted and that one's not. You get that look of that uneven kind of distinction between the graphite and the wood there, which is nice. So yeah, I think this is a good and kind of creative application of this assignment. So Ian's done this spike grenade from Halo 3. I had to look that up because it's not something I'm too familiar with. Um, and let's take a look in the file. So yeah, it looks like you've done a good job of replicating that. Um, Maybe we'll put them side by side. Yeah, I think it looks good. I think that you could probably adjust some of these proportions. Like, I think that this section to me looks a little longer and thinner um, than it is. Um, and you've got these various side pieces, and you could have added maybe an extra cylinder here, to replicate that sort of change in surface material there. Could be a nice touch, but yeah, I mean, this is pretty thoughtfully and accurately shaped like that. Um, as and I see you've added a couple primitives there to get that. I think that the shape kind of narrows to the top, but that again is probably beyond the scope of just doing stuff with primitives, which you looks like, at least for the most part, you managed to do. So, yeah, it looks like a pretty faithful build of that. What I would say though is that its file's a little disorganized. So, yeah, although it looks like this is just a bunch of extra junk, so you could probably just get rid of all that. Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, as long as you get rid of that stuff. And again, that copy paste thing, I usually use duplicate and not copy paste. And let's get the channel box back open. Whoops. Where's my channel box? It's attribute editor. Oh, that is the channel box. It's just really wide. So, yeah, you've got a layer and all that. So, good. Next up, we have Matthew. So you've got a little kind of person made of primitives, and it looks like you've named your various objects, at least the groups, not necessarily the objects, and you've got some layers, so that's good. Yeah, I think you've got the basics, and I would say keep going. You've got these sort of knee joints. You could break this up and make knees and keep going and make hands and add sort of some facial features, and you could just keep going within this general theme and kind of flesh it out and take a little further. But it's good you got the basics and you've got the character posed somewhat, so that's good. Although always kind of look out for balance. He looks a little bit like he's falling over. Um, I might center as pivot, modify center pivot, and kind of do that maybe. Kind of feels a little more balanced now. Just having fun with the pose a little bit. Okay. Looks a little more balanced, I think. Anyway, so it's always something to think about when you're posing. So yeah, you've got some basics, but I would say you could keep going and flesh it out with some more detail. Next up, we've got Courtney, and we've got a mug here, and looks like we've got this layers on reference. Okay, so looks like a pipe and just a flattened cylinder and then a few more cylinders. So yeah, it's made out of primitives. I guess what I would say is, you know, I always encourage people to use reference. So try to look at a real mug and see how you can match the shape, because that handle isn't that um, believable for a mug. I saw another student was suggesting, oh, what if you made it a Lego mug, which I thought was kind of a nice idea. To kind of take this to another level. So, I mean, yes, it's something built of primitives, but I think you could, you know, go further, do more, and pay attention to proportions of the real thing. But you've got the basics. You made a group. You placed the stuff. You've named your parts, and you've done layers. So you've fulfilled the goals of the assignment. But I'd just like to see you take it further. Bring it. Um, I'm recording my thing.